welcome. This is Ashanti Golar, the founder of the Brown Girls Guide to Politics. Thank you for joining us for our BGG Live Black History Month series. And I am so excited to have with me another great woman who's just so important to me professionally, personally. Even when I was like a little college Democrats nobody, she paid attention to me. And that's just the type of woman that she is. So please welcome Louisiana State Senator Karen Carter Peterson, or KCP, as most of us call her. How are you today, KCP?
I'm doing fine, Madam President, and an early birthday to you. Happy birthday.
Thank you. So in true BGG fashion, we got to start by asking you, what made you get involved in politics?
Well, certainly. Just thanks for just doing the work of Brown Girls Guide to Politics and everything that you're doing at Emerge. Got to start with that. But I started at a very young age. I had parents that were committed to public service and community service before you even got to, political titles. My dad was an elected official, but my mom was working in the Senior Citizen Center at the church. She worked in the rectory. She served on a whole bunch of boards like YWCA. And my dad also was doing a lot of pro bono work once he finished law school. And was giving back to the community. He served on the Black YMCA because there's a Black YMCA everywhere in urban centers. And so I just grew up in a family of service, and in single digits. Ashanti, I was on the streets, knocking on doors, organizing. It was about a decade after the Civil Rights Bill passed that I got the chance to work with a Black political organization that my father at one point became the president of, Black Organization for Leadership and Development. And these were the groups that formed in urban centers to elect the first iteration of local Black elected officials. And I was knocking on doors, passing out ballots and encouraging people to participate and just expressing to them their power. Not much has changed since then, like what the power of the vote was. Yeah. So I ran, of course I was, in high school. You think this is a big deal. I was student government vice president, right?
It is a big deal. That's what puts so many young women on the path to public office.
That's right. And so that's where that was my first office. And then by the time I was 18, I couldn't wait to vote, not just register to vote. I ran for my first office. I knocked on doors and I probably got between 400 and 500. I got to go check the record. Votes to become one of the youngest delegates at the 1988 Democratic National Convention. I was a Jesse Jackson delegate. And that was my first foray. But it was totally about really enjoying people and like really liking to help people. And that's why I went to law school. And that's why I've committed myself to many, many decades now. I'm 51 years old, but I started at 18.
Don't look it.
Oh, I'll take that all day. I'll take that all day.
So I love this story. You started running for office at a young age. Right now, you are currently one of the only few women serving in the Louisiana State House, particularly the state Senate. When we look at women's representation in the United States and state houses, Louisiana is like down there at the bottom. There's so much that needs to be done. So what made you want to run for the state Senate? But I also feel it's important for people to know just how important and powerful these seats are. Right now, we're seeing that Republicans are only a few seats away from being able to have control of enough state legislative chambers to call a constitutional convention, which scares the crap out of me because we have 4 years of seeing what type of legislation they really like to introduce when they have power. So tell us a little bit more about your state Senate journey and why these roles are important.
Yeah, they're very important. And so I'll give you just a little bit of history, kind of tied to the previous question, Ashanti, and it was that when I finished law school, so I went to Howard University, got a business degree, and I went to Tulane Law School. And my dad was a lawyer. He was actually the first Black president of the Louisiana Trial Lawyers Association. He was a trial lawyer. And he was elected as the tax assessor. And so he ran for mayor. He didn't win. But when he left that tax assessor seat, which is elected, people came to me and said, oh, Karen, you're smart. You're this. You should be tax assessor. Run, because your father has a great name. And I was like, well, I don't really like that particular work. And then a city council seat became open. They're like, oh, you should run for city council. And I had enough, I was politically astute enough to know what my, I thought at least what my talent was and how to match that with the work. It's so important not to just run for a seat, but to know what that work involves. For example, so I didn't run for either one of those because I didn't want to do tax assessments and I didn't want to do that local government stuff. But when the seat for state legislature came up, and my dad was like, wait a minute, you need to practice law for a while before you start running for office because you need to be financially independent. And no, seriously, he was like, wait a minute, time out. I'm not going to be taking care of you for the rest of your life. And you need to have financial independence in order to serve better, because he knew I was already serving in Democratic Party positions, but he's like, you really need to be independent. So you have this degree, get yourself established so that you can better serve with independence. And he was right. 21 years after serving. So I ran for that office, the House, because I was dealing with healthcare policy, environmental policy, tax policy, sales taxes, and business tax credits. And I had an interest in those things: healthcare, environmental, educational policy. Those are not the things that you do as a tax assessor or a school board member or a city council member. And so I was very, and it was a part-time job that permitted me to still practice law, right? So that's why I ran 21 years ago. And I'm so glad I did, because it was a perfect fit. It gave me the ability to continue to have a profession, because in Louisiana, the legislature is a part-time job. Now, it is egregious. That's probably the best word. That we only have, I was in the House for 11 years, and then now I'm in the Senate for the last 10. We only have 6 women out of 39 members of the state Senate in Louisiana. Check this out. Of the 6 women, 3 are Republicans, 3 are Democrats. I'm one of those 3 Democrats. Of the 6, I'm the only pro-choice Democrat woman in the state Senate in Louisiana, 39 members. So yes, have I been trying to change that? Absolutely. We see it all across, unfortunately, a lot in the South, and we got a lot of work to do. But I have been working really hard to make sure people understand their power. Georgia certainly helped, right?
Yes. And you helped, like you and Stacey did so much for Stacey, and Stacey Abrams has endorsed KCP. Got to point that out.
Oh yeah. And I'm proud of that. We've been sisters in the South, Ashanti, like doing the work in the trenches, kind of quietly. But it wasn't too quiet when she was running for governor, and she will be governor one day. You know that. We're claiming it early. But in the meantime, like 9 days from now, early voting starts here in Louisiana. So, I'm proud to have her endorsement. She's been helping me, doing videos, making calls, and just helping me get the word out, and letting particularly women know that we can restore our power in Louisiana and get that seat, because there's 6 members of the House right now, federal, in the Congress, and not one of them is a woman. And there's never been a black woman elected to the federal delegation from Louisiana. So we can make her story again.
Yes. Yeah. You are such a trailblazer in so many ways. And what I want to talk about next is we constantly see the racist, the sexist, just the misogynistic attacks that happen on women, especially Black women, when they want to run for office. Like, I'm on your email list, like full disclosure, like the minute KCP told me that she was running, I was like, make sure you send me the donate link so I can get in my donation. I am like so team KCP from the beginning, but I get your emails and you're dealing with these attacks still. You mentioned it's 9 days out before you start with early voting. How have you really weathered it? And I feel this is an important conversation because we saw the attacks on Kamala Harris. We saw the attacks on Stacey Abrams. And we're actually seeing so many women, especially women of color, say, I don't want to run for office because I don't think I can deal with that. So what advice do you have for them?
Yeah, I think, and look, I'm always team Ashanti too. So you're not the only one on the team. I'm on your team. I was so proud when you became president, your 1 year anniversary. I'm celebrating through this pandemic. But look, it is very tough to offer yourself as a party chair for 8 years, the state party chair in Louisiana from 2012 to 2020. I was encouraging people to run, and there are a lot of women that have offered themselves. We're chipping away at it. It's still a long way to go, but you become vulnerable immediately as soon as you sign your name up, right? And the willingness and the sacrifice that you make to become vulnerable, and particularly in 2021, when with social media, everything about you is just wide open to the public. And so you've got to be okay with your authentic self. You've got to you do self-care. And I mean, I've told people, it's my truth that I've talked about. I've suffered with an addiction, and we have to take care of ourselves, and therapy is a good thing, right?
Yes.
Making sure that you stay healthy physically and mentally, emotionally, and spiritually, so that you can weather the storm when it comes. One of my favorite books is The Road Less Traveled. The first line of that book is 3 words. And it's one of the things that my family, and particularly my dad, who's deceased now, talked about a lot. And he was, the first 3 words are, life is difficult. And then he's like, he would tell us, you only need to know those 3 words in the book. You can put the book down after that. Of course, I read the rest of the book, but life is difficult. And the reason that those words are so important, because if you really understand that life was never intended to be easy, that if you offer yourself, you're going to subject yourself to this criticism, but it's worth it in the end because of the people that you can help. And so I don't want women to get deterred by the challenges that they see. I want to be, and I have been, a mentor to pay it forward and to continue to encourage women, not just young women, seasoned women as well, because there's a lot of value in having retired nurses and retired educators in the room. We're debating bills. That seasoning really helps for people who have been through it. So I hope that people don't get discouraged, and collectively, I know that we can continue to make change, and, be your authentic self. That's the advice that I would give, and be okay with presenting yourself as human as you are. People will be ugly, because that's unfortunately the nature of it, but surround yourself with family and friends to be that foundation to lift you up on those bad days that are coming, because life is difficult.
Yeah.
If you have the tools in the network, you'll get through it. And that's what Emerge does. That's what the Girls Guide does. That's what we do.
That's what I talk about in our Emerge training. You got to be your authentic self. And that's something that I learned from you and Donna when I was just coming up. And I'm like, I'm just this little Black girl from Las Vegas who's now in this DC political world. And I was like, how do you be? And you all said, you be you. You just be your authentic self. And I also say with these attacks, we know it's a way for people to want to keep us out of politics, because they know when we're involved, we make change. And I'm super excited to talk about your race for Congress with this Black History Month BGG Live series. We didn't just only want to spotlight women who are currently in elected office, but women who are running for higher office, because we don't believe that you only have to get elected once and stay there. We saw you went from the House to the Senate, and now we're going to put you in the bigger House in Congress. So what made you want to take the leap, and tell us a little bit more about your campaign and how people can get involved?
Well, sure. I mean, consistent with what I said about the policies. And so really knowing the job of a congressional member, I worked with a congressman while I was at Howard in Washington, D.C. And so I got to work in the House, and I also got to work as an intern in the Senate with my senator at the time. And so I got the bug back then, and I knew, the issues that were moving through the committees and on the floor, and the whole process was just really something that I fell in love with. And so the legislative process at the state level is very similar. I mean, it's similar issues, but I think I'll have the opportunity, if I'm able to get there, God willing, I'll have the opportunity to really touch and transform lives. There are about 800,000 people in the 2nd Congressional District. There's, again, not a woman at the table for the entirety of the state of Louisiana, and there's certainly not a progressive woman. I want to be that voice, that progressive voice that's going to stand in a bold and a courageous way in the face of, yes, a delegation that will not always agree with my position, but I know that this particular district, I would be representing their values, which they don't always get that kind of bold and courageous, forthright leadership in an unapologetic, unbossed way. So what are those things that I want to fight for? Medicare for all. I support a Green New Deal. I also support, environmental justice issues that are at the forefront of parts of this district called the Louisiana Cancer Alley and the river parishes. It's 10 parishes from Baton Rouge, where Southern University is, and LSU, all the way to New Orleans. And a lot of the area in between Baton Rouge and New Orleans is known as river parishes. But there's been a lot of pollution in Black and brown communities. And people have been kicking the can and not leading on environmental justice issues. Certainly really creating a just system in criminal justice system that has been unjust, particularly to Black and brown communities, is important. We've started to do that at the state level. I know that I can do more by joining a lot of the members of the House and the Senate that are already working on this stuff. Having relationships, I think matter. I served as vice chair for the DNC for civic engagement and voter protection. And of course, we all want to see HR 1 pass. We want to see Congressman John Lewis's act pass. That's really important. Continuing to protect the right to vote and minimize the voter suppression issues that are facing, that states are facing. So the collective engagement with people that I have had the chance to work with in the Democratic Party, espousing those values and doing it on behalf of the citizens of Louisiana is what I want to do, because we live in a state, unfortunately, where we're 48th, 49th, and 50th. I've been filing bills to increase the minimum wage for years, and we haven't been able to do it. It needs to happen at the federal level. It needs to be in this COVID package. I hope the COVID package passes before the election is over, Ashanti. You know why? Because there are a lot of people that are hurting right now, and they've been hurting for a long time. We're being tested in Louisiana. We have been tested before with hurricanes, Katrina, Rita, Gustav, Ike, all these hurricanes, right? I served as the chair of the Hurricane Recovery Committee. I served as the chair of the insurance committee. I have led, and I have a proven track record of getting things done. And so the biggest example, as somebody asked me the other day, what's the thing you're most proud of in your legislative career? I said, when Bobby Jindal was governor, I was just beating him down. I had chief nemesis. That was my title, right? Because he would bring budgets that were just callous and just awful. He closed mental health hospitals, and the budgets would always cut higher education and healthcare and, teachers' pay and resources to education. I had so many bills vetoed during his time because I was his chief nemesis. And I was like, this is okay. This too shall pass. And when the Affordable Care Act passed, of course, the governors had a chance to sign off and make sure their states get it. Well, he didn't do that, of course. I filed bills. I tried to get the legislature to force him to do it. The legislature didn't do it. I became chair of the party in 2012. And from 2012 to 2015, I worked my butt off around this state as chair to make sure that John Bell Edwards got elected and got elected. And the first thing he did was sign off on Medicaid expansion. That was a good day. And that was in 2015. 5 years later, today, 442,000 people have health insurance. Now, I've had that because I've been blessed, but I know what it means. It transforms lives. So that is a connection between your vote, organizing, mobilizing people, getting someone elected that shares your values, and then impacting lives. And that's life or death stuff. So, that's why I want to be in Congress, because I know I can do a lot more.
You can, and you were definitely all in for John Bell Edwards. I remember when the runoff happened, we had one of our DNC winter meetings, and KCP set up a phone bank. And you had people phone banking at the winter meeting. We would take shifts in between meetings. If you didn't need to be in this meeting, you were phone banking. So that is just how committed you were, how you always are, to making sure that we have good people who are going to do good things. I appreciate you taking the time to chat with us. I want to close this out by asking you, who is a Black woman that you would like to shout out, uplift during this Black History Month?
Well, before I do that, Ashanti, I thank you for having me, but www.KarenCarterPeterson.com, I can't get away without saying, please go there, visit, help financially, make calls, sign up. But there's a particular Black woman that has been working with me in this campaign that I am so proud of. Her name is Elsie Dunbar. Most of you won't know who she is, but she runs a program. She works as an engineer in the River Parishes. She's from the River Parishes Ascension, and I'm so proud of her. She has a program called STEM Gems, where she has been mentoring women. She's over the last 5 or 6 years, 800 women. I mean, and I was like, when I met her, she was like, "Oh, I'm so proud of you." I said, "No, I'm so proud of you. I didn't even know about how many people you were touching with your work." But of course, it's to encourage young women to participate and to pursue opportunities in STEM. And I just want to lift her up because there are probably not a lot of people who do that. And I'm proud of her.
Oh, I love it. KCP, thank you. I love you so much.
Love
We
you.
have the website up on the screen. Please go do a donation. You can do virtual phone banking. There are so many ways to support. And like KCP said, she would be the only woman in the Louisiana delegation. And it's
And the first Black woman.
first Black woman. So, but you would be the only current woman.
Yes.
Yes. So they're having other women, not trying to disrespect Senator Landrieu, but really, we really just do need you there. Thank you, everyone, so much for joining, and we'll catch you on our next BGG Live. Bye, everyone.
Thanks, Ashanti.
Thank you.